Hey, welcome back to Off the Grid. In the last two episodes in this series, we talked about food and other essential items you need to have on hand in case of an emergency. But you know what? We ignored four elephants in the room. We call them the 4 Ps. So we're going to review them briefly in this episode. And they're important because without them, all the other things we talked about in episode 1 and episode 2 are irrelevant. Now, the first P is power. Now, if you're off-grid like we are, and you have solar panels or micro hydro, and you have a good battery bank to store that energy, then you're probably in good shape. But if not, you're going to need some sort of a generator to power up anything you have in your home that uses electricity. So what kind of generator do you need? Well, it can be propane, it can be a diesel generator, it can be gasoline, it can be multi-fuel. We don't think it really matters. But what does matter is whether it delivers what's called a pure sine wave. Now, this is complicated stuff, but a pure sine wave is needed for delicate electronics. It reduces electrical interference and it makes electrical appliances run more efficiently. Now, this unit does not deliver a pure sine wave. We use it here in our workshop and studio. I use it to power my tools, we run the lights, and Karen uses it for her equipment. And for those applications, you don't need a pure sine wave. But this unit, which is our propane generator, and it delivers all the power we need to the house in case of an emergency, does deliver a pure sine wave. Washing machines and electric refrigerators often fall in this category. So does anything that uses a silicon-controlled rectifier. Now, if you don't have any of that stuff, you're probably okay with what's called a modified sine wave, like what we use up at the shop.
Our second P is a portable stove. One of these will come in handy, particularly if you have an electric stove. If you have natural gas, you're probably okay, as long as the gas line isn't broken. But your electronic ignition won't be working, so make sure you have a lot of matches. If your gas line is broken, you'll be very glad you have some kind of a portable stove as a backup. Out here, we use propane. And as you can see, we have several tanks because we only get delivery once a year.
Now, the third P is potable water, because in a disaster, water supplies can get contaminated. Now, it might be nice to have a couple of cases of bottled water lying around, but that's not going to cut it. Remember, each of us needs about a half gallon of water a day just to stay healthy. And that doesn't even count cooking. Now, you can boil your water if you have power, and that'll disinfect it, but you're going to use up a lot of precious energy to do it. You can also use chlorine to disinfect it by dosing your water. But if you don't get the balance exactly right, you can really screw yourself up. A safer way is to filter it. We run a combination filter and UV light full-time at our cabin. Even though we get our water from a spring, we run it through a 0.5 micron filter and the UV light just to be safe. Now, if you're looking for something a little less complicated, you can use something like this. Sorry, this is the backpacking filter that we use. It's a little smaller than one of those big units, but they're good for 100,000 gallons, which is plenty of water, and it's safe water.
And the final P, wait for it, is a pressure cooker. Like the one Mom used to use, but much improved. Pressure cookers will speed up your cooking time, which will save precious fuel. They also preserve more of the nutrients in your food, and they can even be used for canning.
Well, that's it. Those are the 4 Ps. A little power, a portable stove, potable water, and a pressure cooker. And you're good to go. Now, if you missed the first 2 episodes of this series about the food you need to store and the other important essentials you need to have on hand, go back to our site and check them out. I think if you look through the site, you'll find almost everything you need to know about living off-grid.